So I've been told you like putting Atraxa into play. Today we are doing a short little deck tech, and we are going to be telling you how to put Atraxa into play real early in Pioneer. Let's not waste any of your time. Let's check this deck tech out. Okay, first off, this is Neoform Atraxa in Pioneer. What does this deck want to do? Well, as you could guess by the name of the deck, we are going to cast Neoform, and we are going to put Atraxa Grand Unifier in play. This card is the new hotness in Magic the Gathering. This is the new baddie, the big fatty that you want to put into play with all your, reanimation spells and Neoforms, and we're just everybody's trying to cheat this card into play. Let's take a look at what this card does before we get into this deck tech. It is a 3 green, white, blue, black legendary creature Phyrexian Angel. It has flying, vigilance, death touch, and lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your bottom of your library in a random order, and it's a 7/7. Holy smokes, this thing is a ton of value. You don't even need to attack with this thing. You don't need to spend any life like Gristlebrand. This card just comes into play. When it enters play, you get to basically get 10 cards. This card's nuts. This card's absolutely nutty. You can get a creature. You can get your other Neoform. You can get Considers, Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, a land. Of course, this card is just good, and it's going to get better with the new battle mechanic whenever March of the Machine comes out. But let's take a look at the rest of this deck list. What is the philosophy behind this thing? Okay, so starting off, you want to cast a bunch of Considers, Fatal Pushes, Thoughtseize, and basically fill your graveyard in the early turns, and then you want to cast either Tasigur the Golden Fang. I'm sure a lot of you remember this card from back in Fate Reforged days from Standard. Or Hooting Mandrills, which is a 6 mana 4/4 with Delve and Trample, and you want to delve away a bunch of cards on like turn 3 or 4, and then you want to cast Neoform on either one of these, which of course Neoform is the namesake of the deck. It is green, blue, sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this one, you got to sack a creature, so we are sacking either Tasigur or Hooting Mandrills, and then you get to search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value. Put that card onto the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter. So the thought is, in the early turns 1, 2, 3, you're going to be considering killing their creatures with Fatal Push, Thoughtseizing them, founding the third pass, strategic planning, basically filling up your graveyard. And then you want to land Hooting Mandrills or Tasigur, cast Neoform, sacrifice it, go find Atraxa, refill your hand to try and do it all again, and eventually the Atraxa will kill them, or you can kill them with Tasigur or Hooting Mandrills, because these cards do hit pretty hard for their mana value. Let's take a look at the exact numbers. At the 1 spot, we have 4 Considers. Of course, this is a great way to fill up our graveyard because you get to Surveil and then draw a card. You get Stubborn Denial because all of our creatures trigger the ability Ferocious, which means it's just a straight-up counterspell. Well, negate for 1 mana. Then we have Fatal Push to get rid of small creatures, hate creatures. And, of course, this is just like the best black removal spell in the format. We have Thoughtseize, which, of course, is one of the best cards, not only in the format, but just in Magic in general. We all know what that card does. Founding the Third Path. This one you might not be as familiar with. I'll read it. Enchantment Saga, and it has Read Ahead, so you get to choose whichever chapter you want to go to. Chapter 1, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 1 or 2 from your hand without paying its mana cost. That's pretty sweet. Chapter 2, you get target player mills 4 cards, so you get to mill yourself to, of course, help get Delve going. And then Chapter 3, exile target insert sorcery card from your graveyard, copy it, you may cast the copy. This card is good on several different levels because when you play it just on its first chapter, you're basically getting a strategic planning or a Neoform, or you get Consider, Stubborn Denial. You can't play Stubborn Denial. Anyways, Fatal Push or Thoughtseize, but card's very good in this deck. Next up, we have Strategic Planning. This is a 2-mana sorcery from Kaldheim. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest of them into your graveyard. Of course, this is great filtering and helps us fill up our graveyard for Delve. And then, of course, I just talked about Neoform, the namesake of the deck. Then we have our 8 creatures at 6 mana. Those are our sack creatures. But again, we can win the game in corner case scenarios where Atraxa can't close the door. And then, of course, we have Big Mama Atraxa, and this card is insane. Taking a look at the rest of the main deck, the lands, we've got Blooming Marsh, Boseiju ×1, Botanical Sanctums, 2 Breeding Pools, 4 Darkslick Shores, 1 Island, 4 Mana Confluence, 2 Overgrown Tombs, 1 Swamp, and 2 Watery Graves. Taking a look at the sideboard, we've got 3 Duresses, and Duresses comes in against Control, against mid-range decks. We've got Ray of Enfeeblement, and this is a 1-mana instant. Target creature gets -4/-1 until end of turn. If that creature is white, it gets -4/-4 instead. This deck does struggle against the mono-white humans deck, and this card also kills problematic cards like Thalia Guardian of Thraben, because that tax is very real. Next up, we've got Ether Gust. This comes in against Mono Green, of course, Mono Green Devotion, and any red decks. They float around. You see them occasionally on Moto. And then Abrupt Decay, just a nice catch-all for any kind of deck that wants to disrupt us. And, you know, it kills anything that stops us from searching our deck or anything like that. So, Abrupt Decay, very good. Next up, Mystical Dispute, of course, against the Control matchup can be a grindy one, and you do still bring this in against Mono Green Devotion because a lot of their things are going to be happening after turn 3. And then we have Jingotha the Wellspring, everybody's big favorite elemental elk, as our companion, just because we can. But yeah, that is the deck list. This is a really fun one. I am going to try and play this on stream. However, Card Hoarder hasn't had Atraxas available, so I don't know when I'll be able to, but I'm super stoked to, when I finally do, have that streamed. And if you want to check me out on stream, hit up twitch.tv/LessAlex. I'll be over there streaming some fun deck around 9 a.m. on the weekdays. Check me out over there. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to like it. Comment down below what you think about the deck list. Are there any tweaks, changes, anything you would do to this deck? Do you enjoy this kind of deck? These kind of combo-y, crazy decks? I like this deck. Of course, subscribe if you've enjoyed the channel. And I do want to say thank you, everybody who's been watching my videos lately. I did notice that about 60% of my viewers are not subscribed. So if that's you, you're not subscribed and you're watching this, just do it. You're already here. You're at the end of the video. You might as well. If you want to chop it up on Twitter, @LessAlex over there. And, of course, hit me up on Patreon, patreon.com/LessAlex. I appreciate you all. Thanks for watching. And until the next video, I will catch you all on the flippy flop. Adios.